What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and we have to talk about Vinco Ventures, ticker symbol BBIG, because this stock just blew up today, and we saw some very impressive numbers. So let's take a look at the chart. We have it right here, and you can see that we are up massively on the day, right? Yesterday, we ended actually fairly high as well, right? We ended around $10 yesterday, and for the most part, though, we were trading around 8. But today we made highs of 12.49, and we are about to close the day around 10. So this is a very good thing for this stock, right? We're up 7% on the day currently, and we'll probably end somewhere around there. You can see we actually just bounced off of a support level that we formed earlier in the day at $10.20 as institutions tried to pull us down and get this stock moving lower so that they don't have to cover not just their short positions, but their options, open interest positions. And we're going to talk about that in this video because there is something very compelling that I found, right? I'll show you the short interest first. I'll show you the short interest. We have a 19.7% of the float has been shorted, right? You see that. Now, this equates to about 11 million shares, and that is, if you multiply it by the share price, about $110 million. So that is not the largest amount of money that institutions have shorted in this stock, right? They haven't actually allocated that much capital to their short positions, so it's my expectation that this will have to run up quite a bit before actually triggering a short squeeze, as I've talked about in my other videos. Now, what could happen, though, is the possibility of a gamma squeeze, which we actually just saw become a lot more likely both yesterday and today as this stock has just run up. You can see gamma squeezes become a lot more likely. If you look at the September 17th options, you can see the open interest call options right here. There are a ton of them starting around $7.50, but even at $10, there are 36,000 open interest call options. And at $11, there are 26,000. 12,000 at 15 and 45,000 to 20. Now, if we could get this thing to $20, that would actually be very huge pressure for institutions to have to cover their positions, because you can see this thing was around $2, right? Institutions, when they were selling these options, did not expect this thing to run up to 10 to 15 to 20, and that's why they were selling them for so cheap, right? They've all of a sudden become a lot more expensive. And if institutions want to cover these positions, right, they don't want to take the loss on the options because the options are probably down a couple 1,000% by now from when they've sold them. But they don't want to actually buy those options to close out their positions. They would rather hedge against those options, which will actually cause this stock to run up even more, because when institutions have to hedge against options that they've sold, they have to buy shares of stock, right? Let's take a look at the options interest. So you can see we're around $10 right now. Now, that means that if this thing is $10 still by September 17th, institutions will have to buy enough shares to offer up to all the people who have bought these call contracts so that they can give those shares to them when this options contract expires. Now, the same will be true if this reaches $11. They'll have to buy even more shares to offer to the to the options contract holders. And especially if we got to $20, you see this 45,000 shares? That's actually going to be an even bigger influx of capital into BBIG, because institutions don't like to cover these options right until they have to, right? They don't want to just be willy-nilly buying the stock, because that actually in turn raises the price, right? When institutions have to cover on their call options, they actually have to buy shares of stock, and that leads to upwards pressure and more volume and a higher price. And that's probably what was going on yesterday when we started shooting up. Institutions had to trade, probably buy shares in the pre-market and aftermarket, and that's why we're trading so high today and there's so much volume. You can see actually compared to yesterday, if we look at the 1 year, we had a lot more volume today than yesterday, and that happens when institutions have to cover their short or their options positions, right? Not necessarily covering their short positions, because that float is so low, right? It's only at 11 million shares, and that's honestly, to an institution, not that much money. They don't have to cover when they have, even if this was one institution having a short position on this, even if they had a $100 million short position, institutions typically have billions of dollars, and their brokerages probably aren't making them pay off that position and giving them margin calls, right? This is probably going to be, if we see a lot more upwards pressure for BBIG, it's probably going to be coming from the options, open interest activity, from the call options, from the gamma squeeze that could potentially be happening. And I do expect that we will continue rising over the next couple of days, because this is actually the highest close that BBIG has ever seen. You can see we're still above $10, and we did close the day above 10. So that is probably going to be quite a bit of pressure. If you look back at the past couple of days, the highest close that we've had other than today was actually yesterday, and before that it was around $9 and something cents. So we're doing pretty good, right? I think that we're on an upwards trajectory, and the higher that this thing closes every day, the more institutional buying pressure there will be, because those institutions need to cover their short position or their gamma squeeze positions, right? Their open interest calls. So I think that if this thing could get to $20, which is not that far out of reach, right? It's only double. And just 10 days ago, we were at $2.50. So we've already 4x. I think that we could definitely double, especially considering that we were up about 25% from where we currently are just earlier today, right? We were up at 12.50 and now we're at 10.20. So we were up about 20%, 25%. And if we could get up 100% to these $45,000 open interest call options, that would cause a massive influx of capital because these institutions would probably be buying these shares right around, 18, 19, maybe even $20 or $22, depending on how fast this stock moves. They would have to be buying right around then because they don't want to cover those options contracts now. They're hoping this whole thing will fade away and that they won't actually need to exercise those contracts and that they'll all expire worthless. That's their hope, right? They want to push this thing down, and that's actually why you saw a bunch of downwards pressure into the market close. That was most likely institutions trying to force this thing down. Potentially by shorting or using dark pools or some other means, because they don't want this thing to close high. They want to push it down. However, I know retail, and retail often has a bite to it, so it probably won't let that happen now. We'll have to obviously wait and see. None of this is guaranteed. These short squeezes and gamma squeezes are often very risky, so definitely don't trade with any capital that you can't afford to lose. But from where I'm looking, it seems like we are in a pretty good position, and the risk reward seems pretty good, right? As long as we don't have a massive crash in one day, and if you have a good stop loss set, I can see this being potentially a good trade as long as you're not getting very overzealous and buying into a massive spike up, right? You want to potentially be buying on some of these downward trends and softening the blow essentially, but also getting in at a cheaper price. And that's if you want to buy into this stock, right? It's not for everyone, but some people who are interested, that is how I would go about doing it and how I plan on doing that in the future. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you've enjoyed, then feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more of these kinds of updates. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.